Beginning this morning and ending tonight at 11, WATE 6 on Your Side takes an in-depth look at elder abuse.
This is such a problem. We're going to focus on who is affected, why they're abused, and what's being done to stop the abuse.
As WATE 6 on Your Side reporter Don Dare explains, for years, many people were silent when older people were abused, but now that's changing.
So your puzzle's coming along good, isn't it?
It is.
Maxine and Ronna Foreman have formed a close relationship over the last 6 months. For a while, Maxine's life was like this puzzle, in disarray. She asked that we not reveal her last name. When her husband died 2 years ago, she was alone for the first time. Since her house was too big, she sold it and moved into an apartment. Introduced by a friend, a young woman Maxine didn't know well moved in with her.
I wanted her to help me with my meals, help keep the apartment clean, and take me where I needed to go. She came to spend one night. She never left. All she wanted was the money to go buy drugs.
For 4 months, the caregiver lived with Maxine. She had given the young woman access to her debit card.
How badly did she drain your account?
Ugh. Badly. Over $12,000 in a savings.
My clients a lot of times feel humiliated and ashamed for being in the situation that they've been in.
Ronna Foreman is Maxine's case manager. Obtaining a senior's money, called financial exploitation, often leads to further neglect and abuse.
I would say probably 75% of the people that I help have been financially exploited by a caregiver.
Were you afraid to confront her?
Yeah, sort of was. Because I got used to her being there, and I was afraid to be alone.
Elder abuse is widespread. An estimated 1 in 10 older adults are victims of abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation every year. 2/3 of abusers are adult children or spouses. Those abused fear retaliation, loss of independence, or upsetting their family, so they say nothing. Maxine now lives in a safe place and has people looking out for her. She has a clear message.
Make sure you know who you are letting into your life.
If you suspect the abuse, neglect, or exploitation of older adults, report it to the Tennessee Adult Protective Services. The toll-free number, 1-888-277-8366. Don Dare, WATE 6 on Your Side.
Today, we are devoting time in each newscast to the crimes of elder abuse. It is our goal to help break the silence when it comes to reporting these crimes and getting help for victims as well as their families. Anchor Lori Tucker has devoted a lot of time to this topic. She joins us now in the studio with the story of someone who's making a difference for our seniors.
Hi, Gabby. You know, think about it. You know, your mom, your dad, grandparents, any seniors you know, and you realize it's heartbreaking to learn that many aren't just scared to report crimes. Many are just too proud to talk about it, embarrassed that this is happening to them, or maybe they don't know what to do. Well, Knox County District Attorney General Sharm Allen established the Elder Abuse Unit here. There wasn't one in the entire state until she took office in 2014. Passionate about filling a void.
As a child abuse prosecutor who really saw the vulnerabilities and the special needs of the other end of the spectrum of children. And that got me to thinking about the elderly, the vulnerable, and that we didn't give them that special attention. And so that really rang with me, really resonated. And so when I took office, one of the first things I did was say, I want to start an elder abuse unit.
The Elder Abuse Unit has one dedicated prosecutor and a busy support staff, but also a group called WATE, which stands for Vulnerable Adult Protective Investigative Team, made up of different agencies coming together to protect seniors. Knox County was the first in Tennessee to start this. It's mandatory by law that every community have WATE, but under General Allen's direction, Knox County is taking it several steps further.
The law requires that every community meet at least 4 times a year. Here in Knox County, we meet 26 times a year. Every other week, that team of investigators gets together and processes cases.
And listen to this. Last year, the Knox County WATE team looked at more than 1,300 elder abuse cases in Knox County. Allen says the #1 crime against our seniors is financial abuse, followed by neglect and physical and sexual abuse.
That's staggering, it's heartbreaking, and it's also sad that this segment of our community. These are the folks that have raised us, that have protected us, that have brought us up. And then unfortunately, in the majority of these cases, it is someone that the victim knows, perhaps a child, a grandchild, a caregiver that's actually taking advantage of that older person who has spent their life dedicated to the perpetrator.
That is so heartbreaking, but there is an upside when it comes to financial abuse from a criminal standpoint. General Allen said it's the easiest to prove. There's often a paper trail.
There is.
But again, often it leads to caregivers, grandchildren, children, also phone scammers you hear so much about.
Yes, they call the newsroom constantly.
They
so
do.
many have called about our day of coverage and the
Yeah.
special on Saturday. Thank you so much, Lori.
Why are the most vulnerable adults, the elderly, neglected, abused, and exploited? Well, all day today, WATE 6 on Your Side is investigating what's really being done to protect our seniors.
In Knoxville, a group of volunteers is making sure our seniors are not left alone, that someone is out there looking out for them.
In our special series of reports, Elder Abuse Breaking the Silence, WATE 6 on Your Side reporter Don Dare explains how connecting hearts is making a difference.
The Office on Aging in Knoxville, Knox County runs the Mobile Meals program. A hot meal is delivered daily to seniors. However, after the meals are dropped off, there's a need for extra companionship. Connecting Hearts provides one-on-one time, volunteers to seniors, thus reducing the chance of abuse or neglect.
You go through the doors.
Yeah, you have to put in a key.
Life's rich experiences are indispensable. For Wanda, a 73-year-old widow on a fixed income, a weekly visit from Marcia Reap has brought her happiness. Mrs. Reap, a Connecting Hearts volunteer, visits Wanda weekly, providing friendship and a listening ear. With Wanda's grown children unable to visit frequently, Marcia fills a void faced by many seniors who live alone.
Being isolated is very difficult in general, but then once you're isolated, you're more likely susceptible to scams. People kind of prey on people that don't have family checking on them.
Judith Pilo manages the Connecting Hearts volunteer program.
You know, life's pretty complicated, and there's a lot of information coming to seniors in a much different way than it used to. It's all very confusing, and it's just good to have someone else coming into the home, laying eyes on the situation, developing a relationship, and then watching out for them.
All right, so here's your lunch. I brought you some Chick-fil-A.
Marcia brings Wanda lunch when she visits. Connecting Hearts puts a volunteer in the home of a senior outside of the daily mobile meal time. This way, volunteers spend extra time, an hour or two a week, connecting during those hours when no one else may be checking on the older adult.
In Wanda's case, I noticed that she did not have food in her pantry or her refrigerator. And I knew she was getting mobile meals, but that's just one meal a day. Her family, we work out of town, she told me. And so I knew they weren't, connecting with her that often. So we decided to bring groceries to her, which we did. And then we got her also frozen meals for the weekends.
Mobile meals that's coming in is not quite enough. So having a bag of groceries of just easy, kind of senior-friendly foods helps.
Wanda is pleased to be part of Connecting Hearts.
Oh gosh, I'm loving it every minute.
Having Marcia here as your connecting heart, how has that made a difference?
I like her.
You have become her friend, haven't you?
Absolutely, yes. We have a lot of the same interests, don't we?
But she's as precious. And she don't live far from me, do you, hon? I don't know where she lives, but it's not far.
A lot of clients don't, they don't necessarily want to go anywhere. They just want somebody to come and talk to them. And the groceries are great, but I think what they really need is somebody to talk to them and just listen.
There's a big demand for Connecting Hearts volunteers. They work through the Office on Aging. If interested, contact this number, 865-524-2786. Don Dare, WATE, 6 on Your Side.
One of the forms of abuse among aging adults is financial exploitation. Tonight at 5, we continue our series of stories breaking the silence, elder abuse awareness.
Financial exploitation is costing older Americans more than $35 billion each and every year, according to the Adult Protective Services Association. Well, WATE 6 on Your Side reporter Don Dare examines why some people fall victim to this crime.
The financial exploitation of older adults is often called the crime of the 21st century. In a national study, nearly 20% of those 65 and older indicated some form of financial mistreatment or criminal fraud. Sometimes, however, criminals are caught.
Nearly 100 people once trusted Roger Williams with their savings. He's now a federal prisoner for breaking their trust.
I can't say.
Jimmy Vineyard had invested with Williams. Filled with emotion, he could hardly speak when we talked in July 2014.
Beautiful woman.
He and his wife, Ellen, she died in 2011, thought they had invested wisely after putting their money in investments operated solely by Williams. Showing us deposit slips, Mr. Vineyard had invested over $500,000 with Williams. But when he needed cash to pay for Ellen's care, Williams told him the money was gone.
Got all my life savings. Yes.
You can see it in his face, the rage building against Williams. Because Roger Williams was a preacher, investors trusted him with nearly $2 million. At his church in Gatlinburg, we asked him about his investors' savings.
Their money's gone, yeah.
Some 90 investors? How about the other investors?
Yeah, their money, yeah, that was all of our investment over the past 7 years.
I think it's illegal what he done. Very illegal.
Gerald and Judy Perkins, both retirees, lost their house to Roger Williams' Ponzi scheme. For several years, they received monthly checks from Williams, drawn on their investment, which paid the mortgage on their home. But the couple received devastating news in the summer of 2014. Williams sent a letter that he's going out of business, that all distributions will cease immediately.
It's our money. My husband worked for that, and it was his retirement.
We have no comments, Mr. Dare.
After an exhaustive investigation, Williams pleaded guilty last fall to mail fraud, money laundering, and obstruction of IRS laws. The government said he ran a Ponzi scheme, spending most of the money on himself.
Once they realize that they've been taken, it hurts your pride. Not only, have you lost your money, it hurts.
U.S. Postal Inspector Wendy Bowles and an IRS federal investigator spent several years gathering information and building their case against Williams.
His clients, all older adults, trusted their financial advisor.
Yes, they did. A lot of these people considered him a friend. These Ponzi schemes, the investment schemes, it's high earnings. There's never ups and downs. Never.
Yeah.
I've never seen an up and down till it collapses.
The effects of financial exploitation on vulnerable adults are devastating. Loss of security and loss of trust in others. There's depression, fear, anger, and self-doubt. The financial profiteering commonly involves a trusted person.
But I hope to see him stop from this because he don't need to do anybody else.
Jimmy Vineyard died a broken man 2 years before Roger Williams had his day in court. Williams is no longer a free man. He's serving a 5-year sentence at a federal prison in Kentucky.
If you feel that you or someone you know may have been or is at risk of being a victim of financial abuse, contact the Adult Protective Services. This toll-free number, 1-888-277-8366. Don Dare, WATE, 6 on your side.
Vulnerable seniors are often victims of scams that hit their budgets hard.
Those who are victimized usually live alone or have physical limitations. In our continuing series right now, Breaking the Silence, Elder Abuse Awareness, WATE 6 on your side consumer reporter Don Dare explains why some seniors are at risk.
Scams targeting the elderly is big business. It's a frightening epidemic, especially for those who are unaware. For scammers, Facebook appears to be an easy way to contact potential victims. One of those we talk with lost her life savings. The other confesses she should have known better. Why did you believe this?
Idiot. That's just plain and simple. An idiot.
Pat Wilhoit admits she made a costly mistake when she started corresponding with this man who she thought was Paul Stewart. The picture, however, was copied. She didn't know that.
This is where it all started at.
It started with a friend request on Facebook. Describing himself as a high-ranking U.S. Army officer, Stewart claimed he was in Syria on a peacekeeping mission. Pat, a former U.S. Marine, admits she was smitten by him.
Love is as sweet as your voice. Love is magical.
She fell hard after he sent her love messages.
He wanted to make love to me, hold me in his arms, kiss me.
Convinced of his affection, Pat wired $5,600 so her so-called boyfriend could fly to Tennessee.
Elder victims are very vulnerable. We have had cases of someone pretending to befriend someone online.
Nora Monday of Community Health of East Tennessee is an expert on elder abuse. She says imposter online scammers are usually from overseas. To prosecute them, the scammer first must be identified. However, finding international imposters is next to impossible.
I borrowed the money.
How much?
$27,500 and $8,700 and $1,500.
More than $37,000 was sent in a bank-to-bank transfer to an imposter, in this case, a Derek Wayne. Rhonda spends a lot of time on Facebook. With severe Parkinson's disease, she's homebound. After corresponding for months, her online friend sent a text. He had come into a lot of money following a court judgment.
They awarded him $980,000.
He won the $980,000.
Yes.
The phony Derek Wayne told Rhonda he wanted to make her a partner and share the loot. But first, he needed her to pay some fees for him. She took the bait and sent the money.
And why would he want you to have part of the money?
For taking care of it.
Romance scams exploit a senior's loneliness and vulnerability. Once trust is built between the two, the scammer then requests money, according to a Federal Committee on Aging report.
I think that the current financial scams, especially the romantic scams, are exceptionally savvy. It looks real.
Dr. Monica Crane specializes in geriatrics, the medical care of older adults. She says sometimes cognitive judgment diminishes for some older people, especially if there are physical issues and limitations.
For a lot of people, they look at the internet and it is real. If someone sends a photo, it must be the real person. What we find is people have trouble distinguishing something that is too good to be true from something that is actually a benefit.
Rhonda borrowed heavily against her house to pay off her debt. Pat never saw her money again either.
If you have an older friend or relative who lives alone, find out who they may be talking with if they use social media. Don Dare, WATE, 6 on your side.
Well, millions of older adults are abused, neglected, and exploited in the United States each and every day, according to the American Society of Aging.
You know, here in East Tennessee and really across the state, lawmakers are reevaluating their approach to prosecuting elder abuse. As part of our focus, Breaking the Silence, Elder Abuse Awareness, WATE 6 on your side reporter Don Dare now explains how laws are changing.
I would have died. I mean, they never would come check on me.
And you feared for your life?
Yeah. I was living in the woods.
Hazel says she was abused for 6 months last year. We're not revealing her identity nor the alleged abusers. Disabled from a series of strokes, Hazel was hospitalized and spent weeks in rehabilitation in early 2018. While in rehab, she says relatives were supposed to pay her rent, but says they didn't. Hazel lost her apartment. She says then the relatives moved her.
And they put me up on up there where they lived at in a shed pretty much.
In a shed?
Yeah. It didn't have electricity, didn't have no water, didn't have bathroom.
Hazel said she got water from a hose, put it in buckets to bathe.
And I had a potty chair. I had to go empty it over the fence.
A potty chair?
Yeah.
Finally, another relative asks for a wellness check?
Called the county for a wellness check.
How is Hazel doing?
She's doing phenomenal. She's doing so much better than when she first came to us.
Nobody wants to think that this is going to happen to their grandmother or their elderly mother.
Aaron Lawson is a court advocate for the elderly. Belinda McCullough is an advocate case manager for seniors. Belinda got Hazel into a safe place. She's familiar with other cases of similar treatment of the elderly.
They don't want to report it because in some ways they may blame themselves, which they're not at fault.
Elder abuse is sometimes it happens in the shadows. It happens everywhere.
Knox County Assistant District Attorney Andrea Klein helps lead a special unit that prosecutes cases of elder abuse and neglect.
Oftentimes the folks that are doing these things are people who are close to them, family members, caregivers, people that they trust.
Tennessee's Elderly and Vulnerable Adult Protection Act now has some teeth. Over the last 3 years, the state legislature has strengthened and tightened criminal laws to protect the elderly from abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. These crimes are now prosecuted aggressively.
Lack of awareness has been a real problem. That's changing. People are starting to become aware that it is an issue, it is a crime.
For those convicted, they'll appear on the Vulnerable Adult Abuse Registry.
If you are placed on that registry as a result of a criminal conviction, you're on there for life.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I have a home, I have food.
You're brave to do this.
Don't want other old people to get treated wrong anymore. I'm doing okay. God's looking out for me.
There has been no charge in her case yet.
By raising our voices together, everyone can make a difference in the fight against elder abuse. Reporting suspected senior abuse is the law in Tennessee. Don Dare, WATE, 6 on your side.
Well, after our day-long coverage of elder abuse breaking the silence, tonight we're sharing some critical information that you need as you might be searching for a kind and trustworthy caregiver for your parents or maybe other loved ones. Anchor Lori Tucker spent some time with a local woman who sees her caregiver really as part of the family.
I took the lead by 1 point.
81-year-old Daphne Overman looks forward to a competitive game of Scrabble with her caregiver, Taylor Collins. The two keep score, with Daphne usually in the lead.
4, 5, 18.
Daphne had a stroke and has worked hard to get her speech and movement back, wanting to stay at her home and be as independent as possible, surrounded by family heirlooms, photographs, and memories.
How tough is it to be at that point in your life where you have to give up some of your independence?
Well, it's extremely hard to be totally dependent.
But Daphne is fortunate. She has a caregiver come to her home every day. One is Taylor, a certified nurse's assistant or CNA with the agency right at home, who spends 12 hours a day, 3 days a week with Daphne, preparing meals. Putting in 100% to take care of Daphne, who reminds her of her own grandmother.
She makes me feel like I'm not at work.
Joy Wilson, whose own father has Alzheimer's disease, opened right at home 4 years ago to help meet the need for trustworthy caregivers. She employs more than 60, all like Taylor, subject to ongoing background checks and random drug testing.
We do background checking on all of our caregivers. We check their backgrounds on a monthly basis. We drug test them, which these days is very important. And then we make sure that they're trained and ready to go. When they come in for training, sometimes we hand them a cup and say, let's get you drug test. We want to make sure you check out. And we want to surprise them. There's that surprise effect that makes sure they're not prepared for this.
During our interview with Joy, Daphne's phone started ringing.
Hold that thought.
Turned out it was a robocall, potentially a scammer. But Daphne knew just what to do with her caregiver by her side. She simply said, "Thank you," and hung up.
It's our caregivers' jobs to look out for them and protect them physically, but also look out for them and protect them from predators.
I'm a caregiver, but I'm a passionate caregiver.
So what's the best way to find a good caregiver? Here are 2 things to remember. There is a big difference between a home care agency and a home care registry. We have a checklist for you at WATE.com for that. And while you're there, you'll find information on how to get the Senior Service Directory. It is full of resources that'll help you make the best decision for you and your family. So be sure to check that out.